Hey Glow Getters, welcome to the Glow Collective. This podcast series is dedicated to upgrading your consciousness in all facets. This includes rewiring your relationship with yourself and life through deep dives into your mindset and behavior, your skincare, health and wellness, and into new avenues of connection and growth. And for all my fellow entrepreneurs, get ready. We cover creative hacks to start and grow your own side or main hustle, the art of true mastery and being an expert in your field, and how to find your tribe. This is all in the spirit of service to you, my Glow Getters, my community, and ultimately our higher selves. This is a collection of my life's work to guide you through and into the next level of your life. Get ready for today's episode. We're about to master and magnetize this show. And if these words create shifts and waves of new energy within you, I would be honored for you to share this episode with 3 of your family and friends in need of raising their daily glow. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review to be in the Glow Up loop. And without further ado, Glow Getters, welcome to the Glow Collective. All right, guys, I want to take a quick minute to give a shout out to our sponsor, Prolinium. So Prolinium is the maker of 2 of my absolute favorite fillers, Reviness Versa and Reviness Lips. Now, these 2 fillers are incredible because they have the highest concentration of hyaluronic acid, which is a magical little molecule that is naturally produced in your body and helps keep your tissues hydrated and healthy. Now, both of these fillers are loaded with this molecule, and the high concentration means that Reviness produces long-lasting, beautiful results that will always look completely natural while keeping your skin and lips healthy and hydrated. Now, Reviness Versa is one of the newer FDA-approved HA injectables used to treat mild to severe facial wrinkles and folds, such as those smile lines around the mouth. It's one of the best ways to take years off your appearance and help you smile with total confidence. It is hands down my favorite and go-to HA filler. If you've been thinking about improving those smile lines and refreshing your look, then you've got to try Versa. Use promo code LIPS to receive 10% off your first treatment with me, or find a local Reviness provider near you. All right. Hey guys, welcome to the first inaugural episode of the Glow Collective. I'm your host, and I'm excited, humbled, and grateful to actually be sitting here recording this episode for you. This is a culmination of a lot of time spent brainstorming, feeling, a lot of meditation, and just a lot of energy to bring this creation in my brain into fruition and to actually be actively recording this for you guys. It's really surreal for me. So I'm excited for you guys to be here. We're really going to talk about a lot of topics that really inspire me, and I hope inspire you as well. And if there's anything that you can expect from this podcast, expect some raw, real, and open dialogue about yourself and each other, and really about our desires and about our glow. And I want to dive into what the glow is, and that's the name of this podcast, What the Glow. And in today's episode, I will dive into what the Glow Collective is, what prompted the creation of this podcast, and how I settled on the name and really my vision behind it, and what I would love for you to learn from this podcast and really what you can expect. And I'll share and weave in stories and just different experiences from my life. And over the upcoming episodes, we'll have interviews with some of my favorite people that I love and admire and respect. And some of them will be in the skincare realm. Some of them will be within fitness and wellness, as well as integrative medicine. And really want to dive back into wholeness and balance. And so this podcast is an extension of my life's work from what I do in the clinic setting. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm a board certified dermatologist, and I'm practicing in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and have my own private practice. And so, yes, I have a strong passion for skincare, but really it's overall health and wellness. And it's about evolution and consciousness and life design and about inspiration. And there's so many people and podcasts and books and words that I've met and messages that have really reached me and have really helped redefine my life and my mind. And my desire for this podcast is for this to prompt changes internally for you, my Glow Up listeners, and for it to spur really positive shifts in growth in your life, in whatever avenue that is, whether that's coming into deeper love for yourself and with your skin, if it's just giving you clarity on the different skincare procedures and where to start and why and how and all of those nuances, as well as really dive into some of my lifestyle hacks that I have incorporated into my life, whether that be nutrition and wellness, sleep, mindfulness, meditation, fitness, adventure, creativity, whatever and anything that really inspires, right? Really to inspire. And that's why we're here. And so I started my practice in November of 2017, and it was my birthday gift to myself as I started it. My first day of practice was just the day before my birthday. And I remember all the fears and uncertainty I was struggling with prior to starting my practice. And, the person I was 3 years ago to the person I am today is because of the challenges and my growth mindset and my dedication to evolution and compassion. But I wasn't always so balanced, and I didn't know I didn't know all the things we struggle with, right? Just like often things need to be unveiled for us to really address them. And so this podcast specifically came about during the COVID-19 pandemic, during which our clinic was forced into shutdown. And so, there was all this chaos, turmoil, and there's a lot of deaths around us and uncertainty. And of course, loss of income as our practice, just like many countless practices and businesses, were forced to close. And that was for about a 6-week period. And I'm a strong believer that in every challenge is an opportunity, and everything is perception. And we choose or can choose to shift the way we see things. But that is a habit. And I'm told I'm a very positive person, but it's not positivity for the sake of positivity. There's all a reason behind it. And it's not that I don't struggle or have any of the same challenges of those, of you guys, of you. I'm just like you, and I have my own set of things that I that I say I let creep into my mind. But it all comes back to why we are here. And during the pandemic, I had a lot of time on my hands, which was something that I could have only dreamt of having. And, running a full-fledged dermatology and aesthetic spa is no joke. And building a team of hardworking, incredibly strong women wasn't anything I wanted to do, but it was something I felt called to do. And at that time, my calling was first to learn to lead and to first lead myself into a new life and dream. And now with this podcast is to lead others into their new level of growth and expansion. And so during the shutdown, I found myself just incredibly blessed to be given the time to brainstorm, plan, and execute on my dreams. And so as a creator and entrepreneur, the inception of the design and the brainstorming of an idea, and first experiencing an idea is really one of the most exhilarating and exciting phases for me. So it was the same feeling that I had starting my practice once you got over all the fears and queasiness that, all the uncertainties that you don't know what you're doing and all of that, to now where you just have a system in place. You have to learn the system. It's the same thing with this podcast. And so I don't know anything about podcasting, you guys, but All I know is I'm called to share words and messages and stories to inspire you. And the Glow Collective is a collection of all my practices, feelings, and intentions. It's a collection of my manifestations and what my soul is asking of me to continue in my evolution. And as I come into a deeper understanding of myself and the role I play here on this planet Earth, the Glow Collective podcast, this is an avenue in service of that. And so my intention and desire for those of you really finding your way to this podcast is for it to spark a level of curiosity and questioning within yourselves, to question your thoughts, your habits, your motives, and really give you the space and time to really reevaluate and realign and redefine life on your own terms. Because the glow is real. The glow is definitely real. And it's a feeling, and the feeling gets converted into an emotion that lights us up. And then the glow becomes this tangible thing that I truly believe that each of us are meant to embody and feel and share with the world. And it comes into fruition when we learn to sit with ourselves and love all the aspects of ourselves and heal the places in ourself that hurt. And some of those things are things that we are not aware of. But through the art of reflection and questioning and understanding and learning, I truly believe we can tap into that. And it starts within, and it starts here. And it starts now with this fucking podcast, yo. So I want to dive in a little bit more about me. And here's a little disclaimer. If you don't like spirituality, then I want you to turn this off, because it's not going to be for you. This is not going to be for those of you who don't believe in a higher purpose, who don't believe in God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it. And this is not for those of you who want to stay limited, small, stagnant, and idle. My message will not reach you. And I do believe that even if that is what you desire, your soul or your higher self desires so much more. And in the limited human capacity of our limited mind, we may not really truly understand what we're meant to experience in this life. And my message will not reach you unless you are ready to listen to yourself. And before I dive in a little bit more about myself, I want to share what I know to be true. I know that there are so many of you, just like me, who desire more for yourself. Not just for yourself, but for your loved ones, your family, your community, and ultimately the world. And there's so many of you that desire growth and transformation. And so this podcast is for you. This podcast is for those of you that need a push. And let this podcast be a catalyst for growth and change. And give yourself the opportunity to really open up and just hear the words, the messages that we're sharing here. And you don't have to make any decisions. Just start to observe and just take inventory, and just really take the time to quiet down and hear your soul's calling, because we are undergoing change. The world around us is rapidly changing, whether we want to be ignorant of it or not. Or I would say the flip side, whether we are consciously aware of it or not. And all that takes is a shift in the perception. And if you choose to play along in this game, I promise that you will learn to hear your soul's calling. You will undergo transmutations into transformations and ultimately into transcendence. And that raises your glow and the collective glow. And I want to give you a framework to understand just why I'm excited to share this podcast with you. And I think it's extremely important to understand the why. The why for anything we do is the most important. Whether you have an idea, you have a project you want to start, or if you want to even just start a new relationship, get better sleep, change your health, just feel better, you have to understand your why. And this why is critical to the success of anything and everything we do. And it takes time, energy, and resources to learn something new. It takes it takes a sense of fearlessness or comfort with fear to step outside your comfort zone in the application of it, and also while dedicating yourself to a calling. And for me, this is exactly what it is, a calling. And so I want to ask you, my Glow Up listeners, I want to ask you questions that I ask myself. And you don't have to have the answers, but I just want you to hear them and let them marinate into your psyche. So who are you? And why did you choose to listen to this podcast? You know, whether you're a personal friend or this was recommended, or you're a patient or a family, why did you choose to listen to this podcast? What are you hoping to gain out of it? Everything in life is transactional in a way. And transactions don't have to be bad. I think we view them in a way, we think it's money transfer. It's not just money, it's energy transfer, right? We are giving and receiving our energy with everything we're doing. And so I want you to ask yourself, where are you in your life? Are you where you want to be? Or are you wishing, comparing, and hoping for something magical to happen? Are you unhappy with your skin? Are you unhappy with your job? Are you unhappy with your partner in your relationship? Are you struggling with your children or your friends? These are all things that give us cues into where we might be settling and holding ourselves back in life. And not to burst your bubble, but, have to break it to you. Life doesn't happen just without any effort. We have to take our own action and we have to do the work. But how we do the work is where we struggle. And I struggled with so many concepts that I didn't know were eating away on the inside of me. And I was unaware of my self-sabotaging habits and beliefs that I just was patterned into my being, and it held myself back. And that made me make life difficult, really. Like, I was standing in my own way in so many ways, with just crippling fears of inaction and not knowing what route to take. Do I make this decision or this decision? Do I choose this company for my website or this company? And all the things that we think we need to worry about. And so, in this podcast, I'll share some of my personal times and challenges and hardship. Also, places of growth and celebration, and of breakthroughs and triumph over myself and my self-imposed limitations. And that's what this life is, to share. And so I want to come back to you and these questions. And at the end of the episode, or wherever you are listening, whether you're listening to this on your commute to work, while you're working out, taking your dog for a walk, prepping dinner, maybe before the next episode, take 5 to 15 minutes and just write down the answers to these questions that I asked, and rewind the podcast and re-listen until you're able to answer it. And you don't have to have the answer right away, but I promise you, when you pose the question to yourself, your subconscious wants to answer the question, and it'll answer the questions in ways that we are conscious of if we know how to be aware of it, or it will answer the questions in other ways. But the question does get answered. All right, you guys, and now for a little bit more from our sponsor, Prolinium. I'm even more excited with the launch of their newest filler, Revenous Lips. Did you know that lip rejuvenation is one of the most popular and requested minimally invasive procedure right now? You guys, as we age, our lips tend to look deflated and dry. For all of my glow getters curious about lip rejuvenation, We can create a subtle and naturally beautiful pout that will never look puffy or overdone. It's what I want to get in my own lips. And unlike other fillers, Reveness Lips is scientifically formulated to reduce swelling and produce long-lasting results. If you're curious to learn more, check out our Instagram page at DRVSKIN to see some of my amazing before and afters. Or you can find the local Reveness provider near you using the link in the show notes. And use promo code LIPS to receive 10% off your first treatment with me. And I remember, so my older brother, I'll share a little bit about my family, but I have two brothers. My older brother is an integrative medicine and internal medicine physician. He's also practicing here in Fort Wayne. He has Fort Wayne Integrative Medicine, and he will definitely be on the podcast later on this season as well. But he would say something to me that I didn't receive it well. It didn't sit well with me. And so he would often say to me, so my brother, my family calls me Wendy. So he'd be like, well, Wendy, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You know that saying, right? You can't have your cake and eat it too. And he would just tell me that all the time. And every time he said it, I don't know, it would ruffle my feathers because in my head, I would respond, and to him, I would respond, well, what do you mean you can't have your cake and eat it too? You definitely can have your cake and eat it too. And, and so now I feel you can surely have your cake and you can enjoy your cake in all the divine ways that you want to enjoy it. There's a caveat or two to it, but you do have to make your own cake. And that is what ties into the concept or theme of life design. And our desires aren't the same. What we want out of life are not the same. Our values are not the same. But when you learn to live in congruency and harmony with your values, and when you're in alignment and living in authenticity of yourself and your intentions, and also of your purpose, you can start to make your own cake. But you can't go to the store and just go pick up, a regular cake and think that's for you if you have very specific wishes and desires and things that you want to experience. And so I think that it's learning how to make your own cake, which is life, and then also learning how to carve out time to enjoy your cake. And that comes back to the piece on balance. And balance is something I think everyone here listening can relate to, because it's true. Whether, if you have a growing family and you also work, where do you find the time for yourself to meditate or to journal, to do an Epsom salt bath, to sing and dance and feel and be? You have to carve out that time into your schedule to do that. You have to make it a priority. And I think now many of us are learning the importance of it and how to do it, but we struggle with the application of it in our day-to-day living. And I do believe that we can find that balance in our life if we learn how to be aware of ourselves and our thoughts and our feelings. And once you start to know and label what you feel, you can start to then shift that feeling. And I want to dive into in another podcast, about how our feelings define our emotions and our behaviors and our habits, and this whole process that we're in, this feedback loop of our habits that really define our life. And at least for right now, what I want to share is I had a lot of feelings that I struggled with in life. Just, I think like many of you can relate. And I struggled a lot with my mindset of procrastination, of perfectionism, of body awareness, and also of following the norm while also being true to yourself. The effects that our culture and our society has on us, and not knowing that I was under that control because I was unaware. And I struggled, I struggled with guilt, and I struggled a lot with fear. And I never knew that things that I felt were actually, feelings of anxiety. And then I would counteract those feelings with, self-sabotaging behaviors revolving around exercise or food. And all of that was about control and not knowing how to let go. And the more I tried to hold on, the more I would feel myself spiraling. And in that process, then you allow these heavier emotions of guilt into place, because I'm a physician and I give guidance, medical guidance to patients. They come to me for help. And as a physician, I felt I should know better. And if I know better, then I should be better. But I was struggling and I didn't know that. And so ultimately, I learned that it was guilt that stemmed from a deep inner void and that desire for love and sense of belonging. And I would seek that feeling of love and belonging externally in external ways of validation. But what I didn't recognize was that it can only be filled and conquered with complete wholeness and love. And that love is rooted in, if you believe in God and God's love, or in, the higher power's love. And so began the next chapter of my spiritual awakening at the time. And I wouldn't say I had a strong mindset 3 years ago when I started my practice. There was just so many decisions to make. And I was just at the time living day to day. And I wanted to just get through to the next moment because there's so many unknowns and things, little things that needed to be done. And I also had to learn to shift my perspective from scarcity to abundance. And this mindset training was a way for me to do that, to first start developing mini victories over myself, and one decision and action at a time. And anytime I would see myself falling back into the victimization role, fears and anxieties and feelings of unworthiness would creep in, and then the feelings of guilt. And I just knew I was capable of more and that I wanted. And it wasn't really until I started to develop a really strong yoga practice and focus on body awareness that I began to notice these shifts and just release unhealthy ties to exercise and other practices. And, when what I'm talking about, when we first start to shift when we're first learning something new, right? Like you can do something for a few days or weeks, but then you slip back. But what I learned is not to get down on yourself when you fall or slip. It's to meet yourself with even more love and compassion, and pick yourself up like you would pick up your child or a little girl that fell down, and speak to her with the utmost love, that, saying, sweet girl, that's okay. This XYZ happened and that's okay. You'll do better next time. So let's just get up and try one more time, right? And that's the process of learning. It's three steps forward, one step back. And I had to learn to release the all or none mentality and teach myself how to give my body the love and respect it deserved. And when I really stepped deeper into my spiritual evolution, I developed a thirst for knowledge that was, for me, relentless. I became a hermit in my own world, and I had a practice of deep inner inquiry. And that was the route for me at the time. And I didn't know the degree to which my thoughts undermine my emotions and feelings, and I didn't know how to change, but I only knew I wanted to change. And that's that's all that's needed to start, is the desire, the want, and the why. A deep change and transformation does require that knowledge, that desire. And you have to subject yourself to a cause. And for me, it's a type of self-revolution per se, of really taking inventory of my thoughts, emotions, habits, and behaviors, and learn, okay, now what are my limiting beliefs? And that I didn't even know what limiting beliefs were. And how do we shift them? And how can we break patterns and create changes within ourselves? And I didn't know. I asked myself, who am I? Why am I here? What am I meant to be? Why did I come here? Why did my soul decide to come here on this planet Earth? And what is the point of life? And little did I know at the time that all these questions would really set the stage for a really deep transmutation to occur. And what I now know is, right, I transformed and evolved into a new version of myself. And each time you release a limiting belief, or each time you release a habitual pattern or behavior and you reinstall a more self-serving one, a positive one, you can really start to shift and create momentum and power in your life. And that is amazing. To me, that is true inspiration, to do something that you never thought was possible, and to put yourself into scenarios and navigate them with grace and poise in ways that you never thought possible. And so it takes self-discipline. It takes establishing a practice and training your mind. And it also requires you to be rooted in the utmost love and compassion. And it was a deepening of these practices that really spoke to my soul. And as I began shifting my inner self-talk, I became really intentional and mindful of my inner landscape and the thoughts that I would think. I started to, anytime I caught myself speaking in a negative way, or a way that you wouldn't speak to a child or a friend, I just would shift it. I would, if I said, "Oh, you're not good enough to do that," I would pause and be like, "Hey, now, would you say that to a friend? Would you say that to your child?" And the answer is no. You would never do that. You would never put someone down. And why do we put ourselves down, right? It's because we allow ourselves to do that. We all have a wounded inner child, and I do believe that that wounded inner child needs love and craves that love. And we are meant to heal all the aspects of ourself and learn to give that love to ourself before we can fully give that love to others. I think it's important to talk about our failures. So I want to share one of my failures, and part of that is almost not getting into medical school. And I did an accelerated med program. And so what that means is, out of high school, I had a joint acceptance or a seat saved for med school. And I went to University of Akron, and you could decide to do either 2 or 3 years of undergraduate training, and then you do 4 years once you matriculate into the medical school. And when I would say when I got to college, I didn't have the practices I have now. And we were under a considerable amount of pressure with the amount of credits we had to take. We had to take 24 to 26 credits, and most people who weren't in the program were taking 16 to 18. And we, because it's accelerated, you don't get a summer break. You take classes during the summer. And it was a lot to keep up with, while also being out on your own for the first time, and also having to take the MCATs. And the MCATs, and just test taking was something I really struggled with. I, was not a great test taker. And so I had to take you could take it, 3 or 4 times a year. Most people will take it about two times. But I remember not getting the minimum required for matriculation to the medical school, my second year of undergrad. And so that was why I had to take a third year. And so I had taken it, my first year, I've taken it my second year. And now my third year, I went to go take it my 5th or 6th or 7th time. And it was my final chance. This was the last opportunity. I had no more time. Third year's winding up. Everything else was going great. My grades were well, had my letters of recommendation, and all I needed was the minimum score for my MCAT. And it wasn't anything wild or crazy, because the score wasn't as high as it was for other medical schools. But I remember I studied my ass off and spent all these hours studying, and I just would come up short on either the physics, usually on the physics section. And so came the final day for test taking, and went in there, took my exam, said my prayers, and we had to wait for the results. So results come, right? And for those of you, right, gone through schooling, there is a sense of anxiety that you have of knowing if you pass or failed. And so I remember opening it, and my heart just sank because I did not pass or get the score I needed. And I was like, holy fuck, like, I'm not going to be a doctor. Like, I'm not going to be a doctor. right? Because I couldn't get into the medical school. And so there's a board of committees that you have to sit on, or that sits on, and any students that for some reason didn't have the minimum requirements, whether it was their behavior or their grades or MCAT, they had a chance to go before the board. And you really basically have to explain why you're worthy for them to let you gain entrance into the medical school, and why you would be worthy to do that despite not having the minimum requirements. And, during this time period, I hadn't thought about doing anything prior to, going into med school. I knew I wanted to be a doctor since I was a little girl. My dad's a pediatrician, and I just grew up going to my parents' practice, and I played with my dad's stethoscope as one of my toys growing up, and would listen to my brother's lungs. And I remember my dad giving me a small, 3-foot skeleton that I called Mr. Bones to play with, as a child. So all I knew I wanted to be was a doctor, and there was nothing else I was thought about. And here I was, all my dreams and just about to fade away. And I was faced with a lot of sudden realizations that, I wouldn't become a doctor. So I had to really be gentle with myself. And I generally have a positive mindset. And, after evaluating, I sat with myself and said, well, I will write this letter and write my heart out in this letter. But if for some reason I'm not meant to be a doctor, then I surrender to whatever God has in store for me. And I will go into business, or I will start this, do this, consider this project, et cetera, et cetera. And I found myself filling myself with other options and opportunities should path A not be the one for me. You guys, sponsorships make this podcast possible, so please take a listen to one of my favorite sponsors. I want all of you glow getters to know that I will only talk about products that I personally use myself and truly love and believe in. I'm excited to announce that this episode of the Glow Collective is brought to you by Bellafill, one of my personal favorite fillers. As a dermatologist, treating acne scarring is one of the most impactful things that I do for patients to really help them increase their glow, increase their confidence, and help them feel more comfortable in their skin. Bellafill is the only filler FDA approved for the treatment of acne scarring. Now, what I love about Bellafill is that it works immediately, but it's also a long-term biostimulatory filler. So what that means is that it's promoting the growth of new collagen. Now, you guys, this means that you get a beautiful result the day of your treatment that will only improve with time. Now, if you're curious about treating your acne scarring and want to start your journey to smooth, glowing skin, I invite you to make an appointment with me, Dr. V, or check out the link in the show notes to find a Bellafill provider near you. And if you're seeing me, mention this podcast to receive 10% off your first Bellafill treatment. Now back to the show. And I think just having that tenacity and that positivity and that resiliency, I didn't recognize that I had it at such a young age. I was barely 21 yet. I was 20 at the time. I remember when it came, I poured my heart out in this letter, and my advisor at the time, she was always such a bubbly woman, and she would say, Vindia, she's like, you never know what will happen. And so I remember the day of the board committee, and I was out golfing with my dad, and I got a call from my advisor, and my heart was thumping, boom, 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 boom. Right? It's the verdict. What's the verdict here? And so I answer the phone, and I'm like, hello. And so she's like, Vindia. And I'm like, yes. She's like, I have juicy news for you. She's like, they accepted your letter and you are matriculating. You're going to become a doctor. And I remember I just fell down to my knees and was just in shock because I had surrendered it all. And I was just prepared for whatever was next phase for me. And in that moment of surrendering, and I recognized the power of just intention and just trust and guidance in your life path. And so then in medical school, I did not take it for granted. I studied my ass off and I started to really restructure my behaviors and became more disciplined and really honestly became more focused in my studies. And yes, I wasn't perfect still. I enjoyed going out, meeting friends and different things like that. And at the time I drank a lot not a lot, but I did drink alcohol, and I started to notice how that was not the most helpful for me overall. And so, but it took time to really know, what needed to shift and how to do that. And I'm sharing this story with all of you to show you that we all have moments of challenges, of failures. And it's in the failures where we learn to grow, where we learn to dive deep and build that grit and resiliency. And it's in really changing your thoughts and your mindset and learning to recreate new patterns and new habits and new behaviors. All of those really help identify those limiting beliefs. And from there begins a journey of gradual changes. And little by little and slowly, we can unpack and unwire all the years of self-sabotaging thoughts into really empowering, motivating, compassionate, self-serving thoughts, and thoughts filled with love for the self. And once we have love for ourselves, we can give love in a deeper capacity to others. And I understand just how ingrained these patterns are in our psyche, but I'm here to tell you that you can change anything you want. You can learn anything you want. You simply need the desire, you need the knowledge, and you need the guidance. You also need God's grace. I'll add that, or higher power's grace. The last part I want to mention in this podcast, is all of these little stories are stories of overcoming parts of ourself. And I believe it's in this overcoming of ourself where we begin to build our self-worth. And once you start to build discipline, commitment, and accountability with yourself, you reinforce the patterns and wires for your self-worth. And once you learn to rewrite one story, you can learn to observe and rewrite any story. But how many of you say you will do something and you don't follow through? Now, be honest, I was guilty of that. I probably still am guilty of that, but I don't do it to the degree or I don't do it in ways that really undermine myself anymore. I would, say things so often. I would say something I didn't mean. Yeah, I'll do that with you. Or yeah, I'll meet you here, and something comes up and I don't want to, or or something comes up. You're not ready for it. It's learning to really be true and honest with yourself so that you can be true and honest with others. And as you learn to fall in love with yourself, and that process, it's a slow process. It's a daily process. On the other side, and from my experience, I'm grateful for all the challenges placed in my journey, because it's through those challenges that I learned an incredible amount about myself and life, about resiliency, about stepping into the discomfort and finding joy in uncertainty, and really just loving yourself wholeheartedly. So I have a question for you guys. How many of you wish you could change at least one thing about yourself or your life? And maybe it's something physical, like your skin or your smile. But what about like the feeling of confidence, worthiness, and connection? That was something I desired for. I knew I had a lot of untapped potential. I just didn't know how to access it. But it's when you start to unravel these things and break down yourself into the mold of who you think you are, you can allow space to now rebuild and reassemble and redefine yourself and your life. And that self-expression leads to ultimately creative freedom. And, I believe we're meant to do great things and with simple steps. And the greatest gift I wish for you is for you to step into the person you're meant to be, for you to be filled with incredible self-love, trust, and knowingness in yourself and your role here on earth, to know what your purpose and your mission is, and to learn what your divine gifts are, because I believe we each have these gifts, and we're meant to share these gifts with the world. And that is why I give myself and have given myself over to completely making this. This podcast is part of my life's work, and I'm not doing it for other gains per se. It takes a lot of time and energy, and I'm learning there's a lot of aspects to podcasting, but I am going through with this, and I have dedicated my energy and resources because I believe we're meant to share these things with the world, and we're meant to give back to our community, and we're meant to inspire each other in our personal and communal growth, and we can inspire others through the art of sharing. And so this is all an exercise in creative expression for me and stepping into a bigger, brighter, and better version of myself. So whether you're beginning your self-care journey, this podcast will leave you with countless tips to really help you on your way and hold you accountable. And I hope at least in this first episode, you're starting to recognize that. And for those of you who are already living in their purpose and passion, you know what you want, what your dharma is, and you're following it, and you're living out your mission, my challenge to you is for you to rise higher, for you to learn to shine brighter or release higher, and to give and receive more of yourself unabashedly to yourself and to the world, and to continue doing your part to raise the collective consciousness that we're all a part of, and to never underestimate the power of kindness, love, connection, and gentleness. And for those of you who fall in the middle, you, my friends, are in for the ride of a lifetime. A journey to manifestation of the highest calling, it's to step into whoever you want to be. And the magic of skincare and procedures is that we can literally change our physical structure. We can augment the size of the lips, the cheeks, right? And we can do that to enhance what we feel is beautiful. We can learn skills. We can start working out and get the body we want. We can go out and find the relationship that really brings us to a deeper level of connection with ourselves and others. But you have to have the why. And you come to terms with the fact that we're meant to love and light up ourselves and the world around us. And we are intuitive beings, and we can change our brain structure. We can shift our energy, and we can learn and change. And this evolution is, incredible as part of being a human. And over the course of the following episodes, I'll continue to share journeys and, my breakthroughs that I've had, and also other failures and different things that have continued to sculpt me into the person I am today, to more nuances of things that specificities around starting a practice or starting a skincare line, which I'll share in the next episode. But we're meant to first understand ourselves and learn to understand and harmonize with the world around us. And in each moment, we have the opportunity to choose what and who we want to define us. And this podcast is just another manifestation of that, and to teach you to inspire the light within, to open your heart to where you're meant to be, and to walk yourself home first. And then you'll learn the process of releasing your ego attachment and identification with the less serving habits that we have in the pursuit of something greater. And all of this is to embody your truest self and unleash your highest potential. So, my glow getters, I hope you've enjoyed this first podcast. In the upcoming episodes, we'll dive into the ins and outs of skincare. We'll dive into fitness, health, and wellness, and also the art of relaxation. We'll learn how to shift from doing to being, to learn how to multitask, but also how to have single pointed constant focus on one task and unleash our brain's creative potential. And my lifetime passion is really to be an unlimited creative learner of life and to express ourselves with the utmost love and light. And even in the depths of our darkness, we can find our light. And it takes darkness to know light. And I'm excited for all the guests that we will have on in our future episodes, dive into deepen our knowledge and understanding of holistic health, integrative medicine, spirituality, so much more. We'll talk about nutrition and skin food, give you some hacks on how to build glute strength and how to really just shine bright and open your heart, how to love and be loved. Brain activation exercises, breathwork, yoga. So we're going to dive into so many different topics, and we'll host live healing sessions with some of you as our audience, as well as guided meditations, exercises, and some of my favorite ways to really dive deep into concepts. So get ready. You will be challenged and pushed with this podcast, and I promise you will be met with an incredible amount of compassion, and it's all supporting your highest good. So get ready to shine bright, my loves, and to improve our own skincare and learn the magic that is within. So as I end this first episode, I want to leave you with this question. Who is the version of yourself you want to step into? You can be anyone you want, but it starts with you. And who is that person you aspire to be? Are you already living that version of him and her? And with that question, I want you to think about how your external practices right now, the things that you do in your life, are they supporting this version of yourself that you want to expand into, or are they contracting or taking away from that? And that's all I want you to think of. That's all I want you to let marinate into your psyche. And we'll dive into some goodies on the next episode. But remember that life is all an unfoldment. It's an unfoldment into the person that you're meant to be. And your time is now. Your time is now to rise above and tap into your purpose and find your soul's highest calling, and to spread that light and love with all of those around us. And, we're meant to grow, and we're meant to inspire first ourselves and then each other. And with that, I want to dive into my favorite skincare product and skincare procedure and my last glow up hack of the day. So right now, my favorite skincare product would be Bakuchild Glow. It's a botanical plant-based product that I helped create that has cannabinoids, it has bakuchiol, which is a plant-based retinol, and it has other ingredients really to help heal and balance the skin. And I use it twice a day, and I love it, and I love to layer it on with my other products. And then my favorite glow-up procedure right now would probably be PRP and BBL laser. I use BBL Forever Clear Laser to treat active acne, and I love PRP on the skin after any procedure like microneedling, laser resurfacing like ProFractional or Halo, or even as an injection in your scalp to help with hair loss or for skin rejuvenation. So that would be my favorite skincare procedure. And then my last glow up hack would be mindfulness. So I really try to weave in mindfulness or meditation into my day, and simple things from having reminders on my phone to breathe to when I wake up in the morning. First thing I do now is slow down and do a short meditation. And the same thing in the evening when I'm transitioning throughout my day, I like to reset with a short meditation. And so I hope you enjoyed that glow up tip. Stay tuned for many more in the upcoming episodes. And I hope you all have an amazing day wherever you are. Make sure to comment and send me a message on social media, on Instagram, with your favorite part of this podcast, and let me know what really resonated with you. Would love to know if there's any specific topics or habits or glow up tips you want us to cover. Let me know. Send me a message on Instagram at DRV Skin. And I'm wishing you an incredible rest of your day. Dr. V. God bless. All right, guys, if you enjoyed this episode of The Glow Collective, I humbly invite you to take a conscious moment to keep this vision glowing. I would love for you to subscribe, rate, and leave us an honest review. And if this podcast resonates with you, share it with 3 or 4 of your family friends. Tag me on Instagram at DRVSKIN and let me know which words and messages really hit home for you. Let's get the message growing. And why? Because I really want you to glow. Our time is now, And this podcast is only made possible because of you, because I am called to give back to you and share these ideas, thoughts, and messages with all of you, my intrigued glow-getting listeners. We are high vibrational beings here to grow and feel. We are meant to create and perceive deeper experiences of connection and to ultimately enhance the level of love and joy in our relationships of our life. So this is a wrap to today's episode. I'm your host, Dr. V. Stay tuned for the upcoming episode of the Glow Collective, and let's live, love, and glow.